South African government. So in particular, most of these acts, they have been revised, or they are called recent. Why are they called recent? They are called recent because they've been established by ANC in the year 1994, after Nelson Mandela has came into power as the leader of ANC as a political party. So now remember, before 1994, most of the black people were mostly disadvantaged. So now Mandela and his associates, the moment they got into office, they tried by all means to revise all the necessary regulations or all the necessary acts to make sure that these acts cater for each and every person, regardless of your age, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of the language that we speak. So indeed, Mandela was an icon because he didn't advocate for our discrimination, or he didn't advocate for fighting between races as it did take place before ANC came into power. And remember, that was the time of during apartheid era. Okay, right. So now, according to this Credit Act, it says that each and every person should be given a platform to take a credit from any financial provider, regardless that that particular financial provider first checks what the credit worthiness of the person before they can issue out the credit to them. That's what they say. And in this regard, the National Credit Act normally uses what we call credit regulator. And this credit regulator, they are the ones on the ground to make sure that they check the credit worthiness of a person before finances are actually released to them that are supposed to be paid in a later or on a later stage. Okay, right. This act was established to protect both businesses and consumer from negligent lending practices that result in over-debtedness for consumers, or Consumer Protection Act. So now what it does mean is that this act makes sure that not everyone qualifies for a credit, because some people will find that they are very bad in terms of paying. So now the moment a person comes with the credentials or comes with the documents to apply for such credit, and the business gives that particular person a credit without checking whether they are able to pay their credit, then you find that at the end of the day, if a particular person fails to settle their debt, then the business in that regard is going to run a loss. Okay, right. So now this act promotes and advances social and economic welfare of consumers in South Africa. How is that so? Okay, right. The moment a person qualifies to take a loan, it means that that loan is going to be utilized by that particular person so as to improve their standard of living. Improve their standard of living in a manner that this kind of person can actually spend those monies towards buying the groceries, or can spend those monies towards maybe investment. And the moment they do invest, it means that now they are going to have the multiplication of the money that they took from the financial provider. And at the end of the day, you find that the standard of living for the household is going to improve. Now they are going to be able to meet up with the clothing needs. They are going to be able to meet up with the water bills, and also they are going to be able to meet up with the electricity bills and the lights. Okay, right. So now moving on, grade 11s, we also have the act that we normally call it Employment Equity Act. So now this one of Employment Equity Act, it does get rid of discrimination amongst the parties. So it does say that the employer and the employees should always avoid the issue of discrimination. They should work, or they should associate with one another in a manner that is harmonious. Okay, right. So now this act is there to eliminate unfair discrimination. So now this discrimination, it takes place, if you check most of the businesses, they do apply discrimination, especially in terms of age. So now this act says no to that. There shouldn't be any discrimination. There shouldn't be discrimination because of your race. Race, we talk of the color of the skin. There shouldn't be discrimination because of age, because of gender, whether you're female, you're male, because of the religion that you are following, or because now you are a nicer person, you are disabled. No, this act says that as long as this particular person qualifies to perform this particular task, let a chance be given to that particular individual without coming up with such unnecessary discrimination. Okay, right. Also, it ensures that democratic makeup of the country is reflected at all levels in the business. So now, what it does say is that each and every person details, they should be kept by the business. And now this person, if the person has some shortcomings or shortfalls, they shouldn't be judged on that, but it should be judged on the level of the prosecution of their duties. If this particular person is able to execute the duties or the roles that have been granted to them, then there shouldn't be any judgmental at all. Okay, right, grade 11s. So also we are going to check broad-based black economic empowerment. Under this one of broad-based black economic empowerment, we are going to pay much attention to the pillars of the act, meaning the backbones of this act. So now one of the backbones of this act, we are going to check the issue of managerial positions. We are also going to check the issue of ownership. We are also going to check the issue of skills development. And also we are also going to check the issue of the supply and enterprise. Okay, right. So now, as I did explain in the previous slides, that in most cases before ANC came into power, black people were mostly disadvantaged. They were not allowed to occupy managerial positions in organizations or institutions where they were working. And also, they were not allowed to have ownership of the business. They were also not allowed to have ownership of the land and the likes. As well, they were not also allowed to enhance their skills when they are already employed. But that platform was only given to white people. So that is why now the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Act was introduced, so as to make sure that each and every person who was previously disadvantaged is now catered for. So now remember, I said that when Mandela and his associate drafted this set of acts in 1994, when they came into power under the umbrella of ANC, they tried by all means that they cater for each and every person. Some of the acts, yes, they catered for each and every person, regardless whether you are white, regardless whether you are black. But this one specifically of broad-based black economic empowerment, it does cater for only black people. Because now, as I did say earlier, they were much disadvantaged in different set of areas. Okay, right. So now this act ensures that previously disadvantaged people are fully participate in the economy. I did explain that. Why are they expected to fully participate in the economy? Also, under which umbrella? I told you in this regard, we only check the 4 pillars of this act. Okay, right. So now, also this act deals with the constitutional rights in the workplace by addressing the issues such as working hours. Meaning this one now, we are addressing the issue of the basic conditions of Employment Act. So now, what is this basic conditions of Employment Act? When you talk of the basic conditions of Employment Act, this act addresses the terms and the conditions that businesses should always follow on daily basis whenever they head their operation. So now, this act says that businesses should always make sure that they introduce in normal working hours of 8 hours per day, of which now, if the employee is working 5 days per week, then the expectation is that they should work a maximum of 40 hours per week. But now, provided the employee wants to run for additional hours, so it means that per day, businesses are expected to add an hour, of which that hour they are expected to compensate it. So now that hour should be considered as what? As the overtime. Okay, right. So now if you check, it says basic conditions of Employment Act. It deals with the constitutional rights in the workplace by addressing the issues such as working hours. So I did explain working hours. So now let's come to the issue of leaves. So now remember, when you talk of leave, we check the period where employees are going to be off duty. And the moment employees are going to be off duty, they should be compensated for, provided they did make their employers aware that they are going to be off duty for that particular day. So now this leave, it is actually pregnant with a different set of leaves. We can talk of what maternity leave. When a person is going to, or a woman is going to give birth, then there should be some particular days that a woman is going to be off duty. So now the business should compensate for these days, provided that woman did complete the form that indicate maternity leave. In the same manner, paternity leave is where now also a gentleman or a man now, in this regard, the wife is going to give birth. So now the expectation is that this man should also be given that platform to be off duty. So to deal with or to help her with the wife whenever the wife is giving birth. Okay, right. So now we also have a family responsibility leave, where now under this family responsibility leave, now there will be sometimes you find that one of the family members, for example, maybe the wife, the child is sick. So now when at the workplace, you should notify your employer that, okay, you know what, my child is sick, my child is not feeling well. So now may I kindly take 2 or 3 days of duty. So now of which now each and every employer or each and every business is expected to give that particular person a consent to be off duty. Okay, right. So now remember, I said that even when these people are off duties, they should be compensated for. Okay, right. Also now, let's check off the employment contracts pay slips. Employment contract. When you talk of the employment contract, in this regard, we refer to what? We refer to the agreement, the written agreement between the employer and the employee. And there are some aspects that should be indicated inside this agreement. So inside this agreement, there should be what we call a job specification. So now job specification, we refer to what? We refer to the requirements that are needed for a person to perform that particular job. And then when you talk of job description, we talk of what? We talk of the roles and the duties that a person should perform. But now job specification, we refer to the requirements that are needed for that particular person to perform the job. Meaning, in this regard, this job specification takes into account the level of what qualification that the person is actually possessing. Okay, right, grade 11s. So now moving on, we are going to discuss Labor Relations Act. So now when you talk of Labor Relations Act, we are referring to what? We are referring to the act that promotes a good relationship between the employer and the employee. So now this act says that there should be what? There should be respect between the employer and the employee. It doesn't go one way, but it does go both ways. An employer should always respect the employee. In the same manner, the employee should always respect the employer. Okay, right. It says it deals with labor justice and to bring healthy industrial relationships or relations in the business between the employers and the employees. So now what it does mean is that there should be what? There should be harmonious relationship between these two individuals. Okay, right. So now also let's check the issue of the Skills Development Act. So now the Skills Development Act, in this regard, we refer to the act where it says each and every employee at the workplace should always be given the platform to enhance the level of skills that they normally possess. If you want to improve or you want to enhance the level of skills that you already have, but remember or bear in mind that this act only applies to those people who are already employed. So now some businesses, when you're already employed, for them to give you a platform to enhance or to enroll for any leadership, it's a difficult task, or it's a difficult rock to crack. But this act says that each and every person, regardless of the color of your skin, the moment you qualify for that particular leadership, each and every business should give you the platform to do so. Okay, right. So now remember also, not each and every business has a right to enroll for the Skills Development Act. What they do, they normally check the business, that has the payroll of $500,000, or the business that is actually spending $500,000 on paying the wages and the salaries. So now in this regard, that is number one for a business to qualify. And also they check the issue of what they also check up the issue of the percentages. So those businesses that normally qualify, they pay 1% of their profits to the setter, and also 1% shall come from the employee. Okay, so now under this Skill Development Act, there's a body that normally runs on the ground or on the field to make sure that businesses who normally qualify to engage in Skills Development Act, they do so. They pay the expected amount. Also, they check or they approve if the payroll of that particular business reaches $500,000. Okay, so now that is SETA. And when we talk of a SETA, we refer to Sectoral Education and Training Authority. So now this is the body that makes sure that they go there on the ground to make sure that those businesses adhere to the rules and regulations, or that those businesses adhere or follow the procedures that are contained in this Skills Development Act. How do they do that? They go on the ground, they visit different set of businesses. Upon from their completion of the visit, now they report the matter to the Director General to take a decision on that. Then they don't take a decision on that. And also they make sure that they promote and establish learnerships for different set of businesses to administer such. Okay, right. So now if you check, we're saying that the main aim of this act is to improve the skills of all people in South Africa and those employed by the businesses. So I've already explained that. So now we also have what we call compensation for occupational injuries as well as the disease. So now in this regard, we are going to pay much attention towards the disease and the injury. So now QUEDA as an act, it only addresses the issue of safety at the workplace. It says that if an employee gets injured at the workplace or conduct any disease at the workplace, then such businesses should compensate them for that. So, but now it says that if the employees get injured, maybe performing their own issues or their own roles, but using the company resources, such companies will never ever compensate for them. For typical example, you find that the employee is actually a driver for that particular business and is driving the company's business, but now they go for lunch with his family. Then upon the journey, or after the journey, or while still on that particular journey, then you find that they get an accident. In that regard, the business is not going to compensate for that. As well, you find that those businesses that are using heavy machineries, and then you find that employees do cut their fingers or their hands, or they may cut the other part of their bodies. Then in that regard, the business is supposed to compensate or give them something for that. And also this act says that there should be precautionary measures that businesses always take into account. If the business is working with heavy machineries, so they should make sure that there are protective clothing available for each and every individual who is going to engage in use of such big machineries. So now before the business can actually compensate, there are some necessary steps that the business should go through before they can compensate. Because you may find that some of the injuries or some of the diseases, these employees do conduct them at the workplace via their own negligence. So now in that regard, then the business will be left with nothing but to go through deeper research. Okay, right. Also, it improves compensation for disablement or death caused by injuries or diseases contracted by employees in the course of their employment. Okay, I did explain this as well. Okay, right. So now we are going to deal with what we are going to deal now with the adaptation to different set of challenges. Remember in chapter 1, grade 11s, we were dealing with what? We were dealing with the business environment, and how this business environments can influence the business operation so that the business can make a lot of profit, or how this environments can pose a challenge or can act as a barrier from businesses achieving their desired profits or anticipated profits or actually planned goals. Okay, right. So now in this chapter, we are actually going to check how easily businesses normally adapt to such challenges, how businesses normally get used to those challenges. Because now in chapter 1, businesses were studying the surroundings that were actually posing a challenge to them. So now they are adapted to them now, meaning now they know that, okay, at this angle we have this challenge, and also at this angle we have this challenge, and we are used to this challenge. Now let's check how best we can maximize the collection of profits, having studied our alter challenges, and now we check how best we can process or produce goods and services. Okay, right. Grade 11s. So now we are going to check what the terms and the definitions. So now here are the terms and the definitions that we are going to check. But before we can land on to that, let's check the necessary questions that might arise, or what you must know after learning this topic. So questions might come to say explain, discuss, or recommend ways in which businesses can adapt to challenges of the micro market and macro environment. So now grade levels, it is so alarming, or it is so important for you to always make sure that you understand each and every action verb that has been used in a question. Like when the question says explain, you must know what is expected of you. And also, if the question says discuss, you must also know what is expected of you. And also, if your question says recommend, you should as well know what is expected of you. So now these are called action verbs. And then you should always understand the meaning of each and every action verb. Because some people will find that the question says explain. And when the question says explain, you find that instead of explaining, they stayed or they list. So that is why it is so important for you to understand the meaning of each and every action verb. Okay, again, a question might come to say define, explain, discuss, or describe the following ways in which businesses can adapt to challenges of the above mentioned aspect. Okay, right. And also, you may find that the question can say give practical examples of mergers, takeovers, and acquisitions, as well as alliances. So I'll explain in depth the meaning of all these concepts. Okay. Also, the question can say identify the examples from given set of scenarios, and also a question can say quote from the given set of scenarios. So one might ask, why are we always dealing with scenarios under business studies? We are dealing with most of the scenarios under business studies because we'll be analyzing different businesses. Because if you can bear in mind, so now businesses normally encounter different set of challenges. So that is why it is so important to always analyze and come up with a proper suggestion or proper recommendation for each and every business to defeat the challenges that they'll be facing in that particular time period. Okay, right. So now also when the question says recommend, you should know what is expected of you. So now upon the completion of this topic or this chapter, a question might say recommend projects that can be undertaken by businesses as part of social responsibility, and explain the benefits of the project for businesses. Okay, right. So now guys, if you still remember, it is the responsibility of the business to make sure that they give back to the community where it does operate from. And also it is responsibility for the community where the business operates from to make sure that they protect that particular business, to make sure that they go to that particular business to support them in terms of buying goods and services. So it means this goes two ways. Business should give back to the community, and the community also should make sure that they protect that particular business. So that is why we are talking of the social responsibility. Okay. Again, the question can say discuss or explain reasons why business lobby, or also it can say explain or discuss or describe different types of lobbying and the likes. Okay. Also, the bargaining sessions, we are going to go deeper and explain what it does mean. And also the question say explain, you must know the use of this action verb. If it says explain, what is expected of you. Okay, right, grade 11s. If you check, we did go through explain, and also you must check out the advantages of our networking. So networking, I will explain it in depth as well. And also you must give the definition on the meaning of power relations, of which I'll go deeper and explain them. As well, you are supposed to give the discuss or describe or explain ways businesses can form power relations, e.g. strategic allies agreements, persuasion of large investors, company representatives, the influence and the likes. And again, you should identify the lobbying. Okay, right, grade 11s, I will explain this in depth. So now if you check here, we are faced with with the terms and the definition. So now we have two columns. The first column contains what it contains, the term or the concept, while the second column normally contains what it contains, the definition of the concept that appear in column 1. Okay, right. So now when you talk of information management we refer to finding, recording, storing, and retrieving of information from various sources so that it can be used effectively by businesses. So now when we are saying that this information should be stored, should also be gathered, and also should be recorded, and also should be retrieved. So what we mean is that it should also be utilized in an efficient manner. What do we mean by word efficiency? Efficiency is when we try by all means not to engage in any waste. So such information shouldn't be wasted. Imagine to go on the ground, to gather the information, to record, to store it. It's a waste of resource. So now from the waste or the use of resource, now you find that wastage is there, or the information is not profitable to the business. Then in that regard, it means that resources have been used unnecessarily. That is a waste on its own. Okay, right. So now we have strategic response. So now here we are actually referring to a reaction to a need by developing a system that will meet in the long term, and that need that has actually been identified. What do you mean by a need? Remember, when you talk of a need, we are talking of overarching aspect that should be available for that business to run. Okay, right. So now let's move on to a mega. When you talk of a mega, we normally refer to two businesses of similar sizes that are willingly to combine to become one. But even though, if you still remember, under the Competition Act of South Africa, it says no to mega or merging. Why does it say no to merging? It does say no to merging because now, if you check most of the businesses, they merge because they want to run away from competition. And when there's competition on the ground, it means that customers are going to have that privilege of buying goods and services that are of a higher quality. But now the moment this business is now from a combination to become one, it means that now chances are very high for customers to be exploited. So now, according to Competition Act of South Africa, it says no to that. But now, as always, I was actually explaining a word a mega. We are saying that is when two or more businesses that are of the same size combine to become one. But now, bear in mind that grade 11s, that merging is not allowed according to South African Competition Act. Okay, right. So now moving on, we have a takeover. So now this takeover we refer to the act of assuming control of something, especially when one company buys another company against its will. So now most of the times this takeover, it normally happens when a giant company adopts or just takes a weak company. Sometimes it can be by force, sometimes it can be by agreement. But now, normally these giant companies are the ones who normally takes over the companies that are weak in terms of what? In terms of collection of profit, also in terms of the exploitation of customers, also in terms of the exploitation of employees. Okay, right. So now moving on, we have what? We have the alliance. When we talk of this alliance, we normally refer to an association formed between organizations with similar interest, nature, or qualities for mutual benefit. So in most cases, yes, organizations can associate with one another, but in this regard, they are not taking over one another. But what they do, you find that they share the market. They agree together that, okay, let's work together. When you concentrate on this aspect, while myself, I'm going to concentrate on this aspect. But those companies, they are still separate. It's just that they are working hand in hand. That's the meaning of a word alliance. Okay, right. So now let's move on to another term that we call hedging. Hedging is when one tries to invest his money in such a way that its value grows faster than inflation. Okay, right. So now I know this one it normally happens on the ground, where now we find that some people they try by all means to invest or to multiply their monies or their assets before they can actually pay much attention towards inflation. So what do you mean by a word inflation? Inflation we refer to the persistent or or continuous increase in the general price levels of goods and services. In this regard, we check the basket of goods and services that are increasing. We don't only concentrate on one item to say that, okay, if now the price of 750 milliliter Coke keeps on increasing, then we are saying that there is inflation. No, that is not an inflation. Inflation, we check what different prices of goods and services, not only one good. When we talk of one good, and when one good keeps on changing in terms of the price levels, then that we call it price hedging, not inflation, meaning we call it a price hike. Okay, right. So now moving on, grade 1, moving on grade 11, we are going to check what the introduction. So under introduction, businesses operate in a dynamic business environment that pose many challenges on their operations. What do you mean by saying these words? When we talk of a word dynamic, we refer to a change. So meaning that business environments or the surroundings of the environments, they normally change. They keep on changing. They are not static. So if they are not static, they keep on changing. It means also the management of the business or the owners of the business, they should have the flexibility as well to adapt, or they should have the flexibility as well to learn the environments of their business. And also they should check by all means, or try by all means to check the strategies that can necessarily feed for that particular challenge. Because now if you check now, we are now living in millennium. Then when now you want to use the strategy for 80s, that on its own is not going to work. Because now if you check, we are living on a dynamic situation. So now where aspects or vectors are normally keep on changing on daily basis. Okay, right. So now again, it says the profitability and success of businesses depend on how they respond to challenges posed by the internal or external business environment. This is true. What they mean is that the profits of the business will entirely depend on the strategy that the business has adapted to. Remember, the major aim here of opening a business is to make profit. And there are those aspects or there are those surroundings that can hinder the business from collecting the profits. And now, as the owner of the business or as the manager of the business, you should sit down and then you check, okay, when I draft my mission statement, even if they are down there, they should be flexible in such a way that they help you to attain the dream. They help you to attain or get to the vision that you did have from the start. So now, when you talk of the success of the business entirely goes together with the profitability of the business. The moment the business is not making profit, then we'll never ever say that business is successful. But to only be successful if it does make profit, and it has been what anticipated, and also if the vision of the business has been met, and also if the mission statement of the business as well has been what has been drafted in a proper manner, so as to address the meeting or the attainment of the vision of the business as planned. So now remember, grade 11s, I did say it from the start that we have different surroundings of the business, and the approach toward these different surroundings of the business, they shouldn't be static. There should be flexibility on that. Today, you may find the challenge that you are facing today is quite different from the challenge that you are going to face tomorrow in your business. So now, if when the challenge you are facing today, and then you want to treat it as much or the same as the one that you are going to face the next day, that is going to be totally wrong. So now it means that in a business, you should always be flexible enough to make sure that you keep changing on your strategies, not rely on one strategy, because one strategy will never ever take your business anywhere. Okay, right. So now also businesses operate within the political context of the country. Therefore, changes in governments of the country can have a negative impact on businesses. Yes. Why is this the case? If you check now, when we talk of the government we refer to what? We refer to different set of bodies that are normally forming this government. So now this set of bodies, one of them is a politician, or they are politicians. And if you check politicians, these are the people who are occupying the driver's seat of the government. And the moment these people are fatal, it means that the government is going to what? The government is going to fail to address its mandate. The mandate of improving the infrastructure in that particular country, the mandate of giving capital transfers. When we talk of capital transfers, we talk of the grants such as old age grant. We refer to the grants such as child grant, also unemployment grant, also disability grant. So now, if also there is political unrest, there is a fight between or amongst political parties, that one on its own as well is going to hinder, or is going to act as a challenge towards the business from achieving their set goals or their set mission. Remember, the major mission of the business, or the major goal of the business, or the major aim of the business, or the major purpose of the business is to make a profit. So now, if there is a swag governance in that particular country, it means that for businesses to attain the profits that they have been anticipating is not going to be easy. So in that regard, it means that they are going to be negatively affected. How negatively affected? It means that now for them to collect expected or anticipated profits is going to be a challenge. Sometimes you may find that the political party that is now in a government, you find that they impose too much company tax, and then now this too much company tax is a struggle for different set of businesses to settle. So in that regard, it means that businesses are going to what? They are going to be forced to pay a lot of percentages from their profits, of which at the end of the day, you find that they struggle to open more branches, they struggle to pay for salaries and wages. Again, you find that they struggle to keep up with purchasing the necessary inputs for processing, or the necessary inputs or stock, so that they can generate a profit. Okay, right. So now, grade 11s, again, you can take the issue of there is an increasing trend for people to move freely between countries, and for businesses to trade across international borders. Okay, right. So now this one, if you still remember in a previous lesson, I did talk of what? I did talk of the brain drain, where people are actually trained in such a particular country, and the resources for the country, in particular from the government, has been spent on them. Then upon the completion of the skills that they've been attended training for, then they go and join other countries. Meaning now, those countries where they are going to join, now they are the ones who are going to benefit. Okay, right. Now here we can talk of the profession like engineering, also chartered accountant or chartered accounting. Most of them, if you can share or undertake your research, you see that those areas, there are larger numbers of brain drains. So now that also can be a challenge. Okay, businesses need strong relationship to succeed in the marketplace. Yeah, what do we mean by businesses need a strong relationship to succeed in the marketplace? Remember, the marketplace, you are not alone there. And when we talk of a wet market, we talk of a platform where goods and services are being bought and sold. So now in the market, one can actually ask, why am I saying a market is a platform? I'm saying a market is a platform because the transactions concerning goods and services, they can be performed physically or they can be performed online or electronically. So that is why I hate it when a learner says a market is a place, because now it means that you are restricting the transactions that are performed via electronically. So now that is why I'm actually saying that the market is nothing but a platform where goods and services are being bought and sold. Okay, right. So now if you still remember in the previous slides, I did say that for a business to succeed, it means that there should be what? There should be consistency in terms of the collection of profits. But the moment the business fails to have consistency in the level of collection of profits, then in that regard, then the business will never ever be successful. Okay, right. So now let's check ways in which businesses can adapt to challenges of the micro, market, and the macro environment. So now if you still remember in a previous slides, we did discuss the issue of the components under each and every environment. So meaning in this regard, we are going to check ways at which businesses can adapt to micro environment, meaning how businesses can get used to the challenges that are being brought by employees, how to deal with difficult employees. And remember, I said these difficult employees can boil down to the personalities of the employees. Some employees, you may find that they are complainers. They complain a lot. Some employees, you may find that they are lazy. Some employees, you may find that they are what? They are very, very slow in terms of production of goods and services. So now we can only categorize them under the umbrella of difficult employees. But bear in mind that here we are actually referring to different set of personalities. Okay, right. So now let's check how best businesses should deal with difficult employees. Number one, businesses can deal with difficult employees as by revisiting the recruitment and induction of process policies. So now what they must do, they must first check how they did recruit them. How did they end up hiring them? And also they must check if they did give them proper induction, showing them the proper places around the business, also showing them if they did teach them properly how to relate well with their bosses, and also showing them or reminding them if these people did understand their roles and their roles and duties. How are they expected to perform their roles or duties? Because sometimes you find that some employees, they feel comfortable in such a way that they forget to execute their roles, and then they end up now moving up and down, gossiping about one employee to the next or to the other. So it is so important for the business to make sure that they revisit their recruitment files and also they revisit the induction policies that they have in place. Okay, right. Now also in the second manner, businesses need to develop strategies to deal with different types of personalities. This one I did say it. So now when we talk of the strategies here, we're actually referring to techniques that businesses or the managers or the employers should adapt to make sure that they deal with different set of personalities. To deal with someone who's a complainer is totally different from dealing with someone who is what? Who is very slow in terms of what? In terms of production of goods and services. Because now, if you want to apply the same approach across the board, it means that is not going to work for you at all. You must devise your strategies and check how best you can deal with a complainer, and also must check how best you can deal with this particular person who's always dragging their feet in terms of execution of their roles. Okay, right. Also, businesses must offer counseling sessions to employees with personal problems. Yes, sometimes you may find that some employees, they are difficult at the workplace because they'll be having their personal problems. You find that they're having personal issues at home. One might find that at home there's no food, and then they failed to budget, or they are sinking in debts, or they are sinking in credits. So in that regard, it means that is going to hinder their productivity at the workplace, because now what will be lingering in their minds will be, I have this amount that I should settle, but now my salary is not enough to finance such. So in that regard, it means that person will actually be so difficult to deal with. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the lack of vision and mission. So now, when we check this, management must have a clear vision, which is understood and communicated this to all employees. So meaning, in this regard, the management should always make sure that they do what they explain their dream clearly to each and every member of their group. Because sometimes you find that some of the employees, they don't know what to do. Why? Because now you find that the dream of the business has never been explained to them in such a way that they understand. Okay, right. Also now the vision must and mission statement have to be implemented in a way that shapes the internal environment. As I said earlier, make sure that you hold a meeting as the manager of the business. Hold a meeting, explain to your subordinates or to your followers that, you know what, this is the dream of the business. These are the profits that we want to achieve by the end of this year, so that they know even the type of the efforts, or the level of the efforts, or the percentages of the efforts that they apply on the workplace, so as to achieve the set goals, or the set objective. And also we're saying that the vision and mission should direct the use of resources and actions of the employees. So meaning, in this regard, you should always come on the ground as the manager or the leader to make sure that resources are actually channeled towards where they should be utilized. Sometimes you may find that employees, instead of channeling the resources where they're supposed to be channeled, but now they use those resources, or they divert the resources towards their own benefits. So in that regard, it means that your business is going to take long to achieve the set goal or set mission. Okay, right. So now also businesses' values must be evident in ethical standards and the way employees are treated. This one is so crucial. Remember, in a business, there are those set rules, or the code of ethics. When you talk of the code of ethics, we check the rules and regulations that have been set by the business. And now these rules and regulations that have been set by the business, it should be clear, and it should be also explained to followers or subordinates, so that they know what is expected of them. Sometimes some people, they think when we talk of a word professionalism is just going to work when you are wearing a tie. No, it's totally different from that. When you talk of the word professionalism, is when an employee is able to follow the code of ethics, the code of rules and regulations that have been drafted by that particular company, instead of serving their own personal interest. Also, the type of treatment counts at the workplace. How is your manager? How is your leader at the workplace? Is this leader the one who is using autocratic leadership style, or democratic leadership style, or laissez-faire leadership style, or charismatic leadership style, where the leader is always flexible, always charming? So now also you must check the style of leadership that you are using, or the style of management that you are also using, so that if you check that you have been applying this particular style of leadership or this particular style of management, and you see that your employees are still bored and they still feel like they are mistreated, then adapt to the next strategy. Okay, right. So now moving on, we are also landing on the management must be able to anticipate changes in the internal environment so that they can plan goals and operation proactively. How is the management going to be able to anticipate these changes? They can only anticipate these changes if they are able to give what they are able to give what satisfactory survey to its employees. They must give that survey to its employees, to ask employees concerning the working conditions, to ask employees concerning the reaching of the deadlines. Okay, so in that regard, then the business or the manager or the leader will see the approach that, okay, it means that I should change my approach. It means that I should make some necessary changes here and there before it's too late. Remember, the major aim of operating into a business is to make profit. No profit, no business. No consistency in terms of collection of profits, then in that regard, the business will never ever be successful. Okay, right. So now also, let's move on to what? Let's move on to another challenge, which is lack of adequate management skills. So now this one, you may find that the manager of that particular business lacks some skills to perform their duties. So now if there is a problem like that in a management areas, then it means that subordinates or followers down there, it is not going to be clear for them on what to do. Why is that the case? Because now if the leader is confused or the manager is confused, what more about the subordinates or the followers? It means as well they are going to be totally confused. So that is why we are saying that to gauge such challenge, a business manager needs to be skilled in technical aspects of their job and dealing with employees. So it means in this regard, so these managers should enhance their skills. They should enroll for short courses, because some short courses of management, they are there. If the manager enrolls for such, then that is going to help them to enhance their own skills. Unlike just sitting there, then is someone who is actually confused. Okay, right. So now also managers need good interpersonal and conflict resolve or resolution skills. So okay, so when you talk about good interpersonal skills, this one, we check the interaction of the management or the leader with its subordinate. Some of the managers or some of the leaders, the way they interact with the subordinates is totally not good at all. They always shout at employees, or sometimes if there is WhatsApp platform where the communication should be sent, you find that they send whatsoever the wrongs that has been done by the employees via that WhatsApp platform. That is totally wrong. That poses a wrong interpersonal skills. You don't know how to deal with people in a good manner. Also, when you talk of the conflict resolution, when you talk of the word conflict is when there is a misunderstanding amongst or between the workers. So now this misunderstanding can come as a result of clashes of ideas. So now if there is clashes of ideas, then it means that manager or data leader should adapt to necessary resolution skills when to come up with a solution to that prevailing problem. Okay, right. So now also managers must attend management and leadership courses. I did explain this one already. So also businesses may request mentors and coaches from successful businesses to train their managers. Training is always so important, because the moment training is taking place, because no one in this world is perfect. We keep learning on daily basis. So that those people who have been in a game more years than us. So we do have to learn from those people who have been in a game for a longer period of time. Don't say I'm a manager. Swallow your pride. Go and learn from such people. Okay, right. So now we talk of unions, strikes, and go slows. So managers need to deal fairly and transparently with trade unions. I did explain to you the meaning of the word trade union. We said that Trade union, we normally refer to those organizations that talk on behalf of their members whenever there are issues taking place at their different set of workplaces. So now they need to build relationships with with union representatives so that through positive negotiation strikes can be solved. So now trade unions are the ones who can actually fuel the strike to take place, or actually talk to their representative and that they will solve the above mentioned problem. The business can also make use of the CCMA to help reach an agreement with the trade unions. Also, employers need a labor relations strategy where a business engages positively and meaningfully with its employees before tensions arise and strikes are threatened. Okay, in this regard, what is actually needed is that trade unions shouldn't always be harsh or now promise their members things that they will never ever respect or do. What they must do, they should always try to promote a good working relationship between its member and the business that they are working for. Businesses must be able to manage employees in such a way that good working relationships are maintained and disputes are resolved timelessly. So I did explain that in a previous discussion. So now let's check the issue of the market environment, how businesses can adapt to the market environment. So now under market environment, we are going to check the components such as competition, shortage of supply, change in consumer behavior, demographics and psychographics, socio-cultural vectors as well. So now let's check how best businesses can deal with the competition. Businesses must take into account this entry into an operation within the market, and also conduct research and identify customer needs. It is so important for a business to give satisfactory survey forms to customers to ask them whether they are satisfied by their services, or whether they are satisfied by the care that they give as the sellers of goods and services, also offer products or service. So now here as well, they must check the quality of the product or the service that they are selling. How will they know if they sell the product of higher quality to customers and their customers are actually happy? They'll only get to know such information if they issue to them the assessment or survey or form to check whether the customers are actually happy or not. Also offer more personal services. Again, they must ensure that the staff is well trained and knowledgeable. This is so important under each and every business, because most of the staff members that are not well trained, to treat the customers is a struggle. To treat the customers is a change. It's a challenge, because they don't have that proper care. So also let's say shortage of the supply. Meaning here is when the business is struggling in terms of buying its vectors of production necessary to produce goods and services. What they must do, they must select suppliers which are trustworthy and reliable, and also maintain a good relationship with suppliers, and also enter into contracts with suppliers to secure raw materials of good quality and sufficient quantities. Also, they must make sure they select suppliers which are reputable, trustworthy and reliable, and also must take over suppliers to ensure continuity of its supply, and this is called backward integration. Okay, right. So now change in consumer behavior. So also change in consumer behavior can pose a challenge to the business. So now let's check how the business should make sure that they maintain the same behavior from their own consumers. So marketing of the business should conduct an ongoing research to investigate the general behavioral patterns. Also, the marketing manager must monitor and respond to changes in consumer patterns of consumption. So now as well, let's check demographics of the business. We said that also demographics and psychographics can pose a serious challenge on the business. And then let's check how businesses can adapt to this or can actually defeat this. Businesses need to ensure that information is up to date and accurate. They also need to interpret data accurately so that they can plan an effective marketing strategy and plan. They also need to keep track and study the attitude and taste and desires of the market. So now let's check the challenges when it comes to socio-cultural vectors. So socio-cultural factors here, the business should make sure that the entrepreneurs need to remain informed of social cultural changes. Also, they must be able to respond to socio-economic vectors by adapting to internal environment of the business. And also, businesses must be able to modify the marketing strategy and marketing plan accordingly. Also, business must employ people from diverse and social cultural groups so that they can get an inside view on how they meet the needs of the different types of groups. Okay, right. So now let's check 4 ways in which businesses can adapt to challenges of the microenvironment. So now the following ways in which businesses can adapt to challenges of the microenvironment will be discussed in details below. So now when we check the information management. How is the information managed? Remember, when we talk of the information management, there should be finding of the information. How is the information actually being collected? Which criteria is it used to collect the information? And also, we are going to check the recording of the information. How is this information being recorded? Also, those account a lot, because if the information is poorly managed, it means that at the end of the day, that information is not going to be accurate at all. So now also let's check the strategic responses. Megas takeover acquisition alliances, so also organizational design and flexibility, influence of the environment and social responsibilities. If you still remember grade 12 in the previous slides, I did explain the environment and social responsibilities, and also the direct influence that come from different types of the environment, be it the microenvironment, which is inside the business premises, where we talk of the likes of the employees' behavior, where we talk of the likes of the vision of the business or the mission statement of the business. And also, if you still remember, we did talk of the extent of control under this environment. Then we said the control is full because this is the environment that is entirely found inside the business premises. And then also we did touch on the market environment, where market environment we said that we check out the components such as customers as well as the suppliers. And then we said the extent of control is a semi-control. So then we also discussed the issue of the macro environment, where it is totally found outside the business premises, and the extent of control in this regard we said is what there is no control at all. Why? Because here we talk of the legal, and then the business doesn't have any say when it comes to legal matters, and also the business doesn't have any say when it comes to political behavior, and also the business doesn't have any say when it comes to natural disasters behavior. So grade 11s at this juncture, I'd love to say thank you very much. Let's meet in a next lesson.